What's good, everybody? Welcome back to Universal Teas. It's the People's Podcast with your girl Toya, and this episode is called Y'all All Right? This episode is kind of heavy, right? The spirit of it is not as light as usual. If you were here early when I was on, I don't have show notes, but I feel compelled to address the grief that I've been seeing on my timeline. And so starting this episode, I just want to name that this didn't come out of anywhere for me. There's been two recent deaths to people who I love dearly, and just people who I've seen and who I care about who are also being affected. Literally every single day that I've been getting on Facebook, I've been seeing people mourning and grieving. And so in my mind, it's making me question, are we doing this grief thing correctly? And so before I even start my episode, I definitely want to give acknowledgement to the two people who I've experienced or am experiencing grief for. The first is one of my students who passed away maybe a week or two ago. So shout out to you, Zariyah. And then the other, if you're from where I'm from, we are all mourning my cousin Lil Kenny, which was a heavy blow for us. So this episode, I definitely want to lift up their names and their spirits. And so if you all are also grieving, please feel free to mention your angels in the chat, lift up their names, and lift up your voices and how you're doing it. Hold on, there's something I want to grab real quick. So, boom. All right, I'm back down like SmackDown. So, the reason I wanted to talk about grief is because I know that we are all hurting, right? And we assume that when we lose people, or what I've been experiencing and losing people is we have this overwhelming feeling of sadness or depression or sorrow. But a large part of grief, and what I want us to understand about grief, is that it's not just the sad feelings, it's a process to it. And we have to push ourselves to not get stuck in one particular phase of grieving. And so the definition of grief, I know I said I didn't have notes. This is something totally different that I'll talk about later. But grief is deep sorrow, especially caused by someone's death. And my fear when I think about grief, or when I'm thinking about the people who are on my timeline and people who I've grown up with and people who I keep in contact with, I have two things that come to my mind. One is that we are starting to get so desensitized to losing people that are close to us, to the point where we almost don't allow ourselves to grieve, to feel that sorrow, or we are allowing ourselves to settle in that sorrow. You know what I'm saying? And so when I specifically heard about Kenny passing away, it made me like, all my timeline was that, like, people I grew up with. And it really hit home for me because I have been seeing posts about people passing away and death and losing people, but this seemed very a lot more personal because a lot of people that I have personal relationships are affected by it. And it made me think about how this is affecting us mentally, physically, spiritually, and if we are actually taking a healthy route to coping. Let me know if y'all feel like this or think about this, but it really concerns me how I don't see enough people owning where they are in grief, or it's just like it's a couple posts and then it's over. And I've been so deeply concerned and trying to figure out, how do we work through this? How do we address this together? How do we not get desensitized to losing people? Like, it shouldn't just be trivial. Even and I've said this a while ago in teaching, a lot of my students, or a lot of students in general, especially in middle school, because that's the grade that I typically teach, kind of trivialize death. Like, they kind of I don't know, like the dead homies, it doesn't really click to them that this person is gone forever. And I don't want that to happen to us as adults. But I also want to find a way to address it and create the spaces, especially for our black men, to be able to grieve and to show that vulnerability and to show that you are hurt and not feel like you have to hold it in. And even before we get to that phase of grieving, just building support and community. So I really want to figure out what that looks like. And so when I think about grief, there are stages to it. And these are things that happen with us psychologically and naturally. And I'm going to delve more into them. I haven't yet. But I think for me, it's important to identify what stage of grief you're in. So there's 5 stages or 7 stages. I'm going to talk about the 5 to begin with. You have denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and then acceptance. And I know it's really hard for us to even think to the part of accepting, because a lot of us are like, yeah, no, I'm never going to accept this. I don't know how I'm going to live with this. But I think it's important to still find space within yourself, because you're still alive, you're still living. And I've seen posts and quotes before that says we shouldn't allow ourselves to die with the dead. But just being able to acknowledge and make space for every stage of grief that you're in. Something that I really want to push for, especially with this death more recently, that a lot of people close to me are dealing with. Like, it breaks my heart to think about people settling in that hurt and in that pain. And it also makes me realize, because this makes me realize that I've been very far removed from my own reality and my own community and people where I come from. And just to say that I love y'all. Like, if you're from the low end, if you're from 37th in Indiana, if you're from the south side of Chicago, period, I love you, and what you all are feeling is real, and I want you all to feel those emotions, but I really want to see us lean on each other. I really want to see us connect with each other as something other than a funeral, for something other than, you know what I mean, negative things. So we really got to find a way to do that. We really got to figure out what that looks like, and I'm committed to creating spaces. I think this one, being as close as it is, makes me realize that it's so important to create spaces for vulnerability. And so I'm committed to that. So if you are somebody who is feeling grief right now and you have ideas or want to collaborate, please reach out and let me know what you're thinking, because I have an idea for kind of like a workshop or a program or just a space for everybody to come together and just express what it is that they're feeling. Because grief is so strange, and sometimes we can be all right, or sometimes we even cheat ourselves out of being all right. I think something that I've realized too with people that are grieving, or my own grief that I've experienced with losing people, we convince ourselves that we can't be okay because this person that we love or that we care about or that we were connected to, we can't be okay because maybe you feel guilt that you weren't speaking to them as much, or maybe you feel like you could have checked on them, or maybe you feel like you could have spent more time. But we have to understand that it is okay to be okay in the process of grieving. Like, today I'm okay, tomorrow I might not be, but really acknowledging that and being okay with that. And I don't know how y'all feel about it, but I feel like spirits are always here, like we're always connected, and trusting that. This physical body is just a vehicle, and just like you change vehicles, or you run out of time with the vehicle you have, we have to know and acknowledge that all of us have that. Of course, some people are taken away from us by means that are not natural, by the hands of another person. But I really want us to take care of us. And so with this episode, please share it. And like I said, it wasn't going to be, I didn't have notes, but I just felt compelled to express that I love y'all and that I really care about y'all, and I'm really concerned about our mental health. I'm really concerned about how we gonna handle it. And I don't know, like for me, literally, I just really feel strongly for people right now because I see us and I feel us, and I don't know. I want y'all to be okay. And so I want people to know that if you are struggling, if you are grieving, if you feel like you can teach or you can be of service to someone, if you feel like you can be somebody that a person can lean on, because I know there's plenty of people here right now and I can kind of see who's in the chat, but not really. I'm building a community. So if you want to be a part of that community, I don't know if it's going to be a virtual workshop where we all hop on Zoom and we kind of chop it up and we lift up our angels' names, but we got to acknowledge the fact that we are not okay. We got to acknowledge the fact that we go through phases. We have to learn at some point in grief to be okay with being okay, you know, because they're okay. Once a person's transitioned, of course, I wouldn't know, but they're okay. And we got to find a way to be okay. Not okay with them not being here, but we have to find ourselves a way to be okay. And I don't know what that looks like. And I feel like because I haven't experienced extremely close death yet or losing somebody yet, I still feel like people close to me, like I'm an energy sponge. So it really breaks my heart to see people grieve and people check out. And so if you feel like you want to be a part of that community that I am going to start building, for those of us who are grieving, I want you to reach out to me and let me know. Okay? So yeah, if you are in the chat, thank you for joining. This is really quick, but I just wanted everybody to know that I see y'all and I feel y'all, and it doesn't make sense to us. It probably never will, but I want us to find space and time to take care of ourselves, to put your mental health first. I want us to recognize and acknowledge that even in this pain and this hurt and this struggle and this confusion of losing people and gaining angels, it is okay to have an okay day. You don't have to live in sorrow forever. You don't have to be grieving forever. You don't have to be in that one phase of depression forever, but lean on people, follow the light, encourage yourself. If you need somebody to just shoot a quick DM to, hit me up in the DMs, because I if I can help, I will. Yeah. So again, I wanted to dedicate this episode to two people that have recently transitioned that I was close to, one of them being a former student of mine, Zariyah, and the other my cousin from the hood, Lil Kenny. I love both of y'all so much. And if you have your own angels, feel free to drop their names in the chat or drop their names when you share this video. But y'all are definitely going to hear more about us working together to grieve, because we need that. Because I don't know, a lot of us are saying we're all right, but we're not. A lot of us are still moving through our daily lives as if nothing's happened, or we're moving through our daily lives carrying that burden or carrying this dark cloud over us because we sometimes feel guilt, or we feel like we're in this loop of not understanding, or but I want us to take care of us, okay? Because this shit ain't normal. We shouldn't be losing people every day. I shouldn't get on Facebook every day and it literally looks like the obituary section of a newspaper. That really breaks my heart. So it's okay to not be okay, but if you have an okay day in the midst of your grief, that is fine too. Never feel guilty for being all right. All right? So until next time, I will see y'all later. Keep your ears to the streets. Remember, if you are in Milwaukee or if you're in Chicago and you really rock with me, I will be live and in person on August 5th. It is going to be my podcast. It is going to be a day party. There's going to be some free drinks in the mix. So make sure you pull up and celebrate that with me. If you haven't already, go on Amazon and order your heart work journal so that you can go there and make sure you are guided in your purpose and living out your vision. All right? I love y'all. Bye.